Good morning.
Good morning.
So, 500-ish years ago, there was a king in England, and bad stuff happened. He married the wife of his brother who had died. The Pope gave him permission to marry her, and then all the children they had died in infancy, with the exception of their daughter Mary. And then he decided, well, I'm going to divorce you, and I'm going to marry Anne Boleyn. And the Pope said no. And so he said, fine, I'm going to start my own church. And we have the beginnings of Protestantism. Really, it was Luther first. But the Pope actually gave Henry VIII the title of Defender of the Faith for standing up against Lutheranism. But then he decided he was going to go off and do his own thing, all because it was probably his fault that they couldn't have a child. And so, today we celebrate the feast day of Saints John Fisher and Saint Thomas More. Saint Thomas More was the king's right-hand man. He was his Lord Chancellor, and John Fisher was a bishop, the only bishop in all of England who refused to go along with Henry's game. They both stood up for the faith. They both defended the faith, and it earned them martyrdom. It earned their death. But they boldly stood up to the king. They boldly said, no, we're not going to go along with what you're saying, right? We're not going to pretend like you have new clothes on, Emperor. We're not going to do it. We're going to stand with the truth. And really, they're quite appropriate saints for our time, right? There's so much nonsense in the world where we have to stand up and say, no, I'm going to stand for the truth. I'm going to stand for what the church teaches, which is the truth, whether people don't like that or not. I'm going to stand for what is real, right? I'm not going to go around and say circles or squares just because someone said that that's a popular thing to do. I'm going to boldly proclaim the truth. And it might cost me, right? It might cost me friendship. It might cost me my job. It might cost me my life. But I am going to be bold and say this is what is the truth. And we need strong men like Thomas More, like John Fisher, to do that today. To stand up and say, no, we will not go along with nonsense. We will always proclaim the truth. We will always say that which is real, which is right. We live in a time that is really strange, right? And, sure, we look back and we say, oh gosh, that was back in the 1500s and, in England, certainly it would never happen in a modern world that, just because you disagreed with something that, the king would send all of his men against you to lock you up and, put you in the Tower of England. That would never happen in modern world, right? There would never be a two-tiered system of justice in the modern world, as long as you go along with, the kind of delusions. Now, we have to be careful, right? As Catholics, we're Catholics first, then we're Americans. And we have to recognize that, no, the truth that I follow is the truth that comes from Jesus Christ. The truth that I believe, the truth that I proclaim is that which is divinely given. The truth that God has revealed. The truth that is real. The truth that is rooted in nature. The truth that is rooted in that which is good. And to do God's will. When we stop doing God's will, when we try to become our own gods, when we try to say, I'm just going to start my own church and I'm going to call it the Church of England, why not just start the Church of Tim? I'll do that. And we can believe whatever we want, well, whatever I want to. It doesn't matter what you want. Maybe some of you already think this is the Church of Tim, but it's not. But to recognize that we must be faithful, right? We can't just do something because it feels good. We can't just do something because we think it's a good idea. We must do things because we're striving to do the will of God, right? Thomas More, John Fisher, they did the will of God till the end. They didn't waver, right? They didn't say, well, I'll renounce the faith and, then in secret come back to it. No, they were bold. They were like, nope, this is real. You're not the head of the Church of England, because there is no such thing as the Church of England. There is the one church established by Jesus Christ. And we're going to be faithful to Christ before we are to you. And so must we do as well. We must always be faithful to Christ before anything else. We must be faithful to Christ before the world. We must be faithful to Christ before our politics. We must be faithful to Christ before whatever fad is going around. We must be faithful to Jesus Christ, and it might cost us. So today, on this feast day of Saints John Fisher and Thomas More, let us ask for their intercession as they wear the martyr's crown in heaven, that indeed we may be able to stand up to the wrongness of the world, and that we may be able to proclaim the truth boldly and in charity.